Hollywood's glamour often hides its darker truths. Under the fame and success, many stars have battled addiction, with alcohol becoming both a refuge and a downfall. For some of the brightest talents, the pressures of fame and personal struggles turn to tragedy as their reliance on drinking consumed their lives and careers. This list explores the stories of 10 acting legends whose immense talent was overshadowed by alcoholism. Their lives serve as cautionary tales, revealing the hidden battles behind the spotlight and the human cost of addiction. Let's uncover their untold stories. Spencer Tracy. Spencer Tracy was a towering figure in Hollywood's golden age, widely regarded as one of the most gifted and versatile actors of his time. With 2 Academy Awards for Best Actor earned for his roles in Captain's Courageous, 1937, and Boys Town, 1938, he became a symbol of acting excellence. Tracy's performances in classics like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, Father of the Bride, and Inherit the Wind solidified his reputation as a cinematic legend. Yet, beneath the surface of his professional triumphs lay a deeply troubled man struggling with a lifelong battle against alcoholism. Tracy's inner turmoil was a stark contrast to the composed and confident characters he often portrayed on screen. Described by those who knew him as deeply insecure, he turned to alcohol as a way to cope with the pressures of fame and his personal struggles. Despite his professional discipline, his drinking was no secret in Hollywood. It strained his relationships, most notably his long-term romance with Katharine Hepburn. Though Hepburn stood by him for decades, she was often left to endure the consequences of his binges, which frequently left him uncontactable for days. Tracy's battle with alcohol extended beyond emotional struggles. It took a significant toll on his physical health, exacerbating pre-existing conditions like diabetes and hypertension. His heavy drinking also worsened his insomnia, leading him to rely on sleeping pills, which created a dangerous cycle of dependency. Despite repeated warnings from doctors about the risks of his lifestyle, Tracy found it nearly impossible to quit drinking, a common challenge for those battling addiction. By the 1960s, Tracy's health had visibly declined. During the filming of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, a landmark film that tackled interracial marriage, his condition was so precarious that the production schedule was adjusted to accommodate his physical limitations. He was unable to stand for long periods and often needed rest breaks between scenes. Hepburn, who co-starred in the film, helped nurse him through its completion. Tragically, Tracy passed away just 17 days after filming Wrapped, succumbing to a heart attack at the age of 67. Despite his personal struggles, Spencer Tracy's legacy remains untarnished as one of the greatest actors in cinematic history. Barbara Payton. Barbara Payton's ascent in Hollywood was meteoric, and so was her fall. Born in Cloquet, Minnesota, she possessed an undeniable charm and beauty that quickly caught the attention of casting directors. By the late 1940s, Payton was starring alongside some of the biggest names in the industry, including James Cagney in Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye and Gregory Peck in Only the Valiant. With her dazzling screen presence and charisma, she appeared to be on the path to long-lasting stardom. However, the pressures of Hollywood, coupled with a turbulent personal life, sent her career into a downward spiral. Payton's off-screen life became a fixture in tabloid headlines. Her relationships were chaotic, marked by high-profile romances and scandal. Most infamous was her violent love triangle with actors Tom Neal and Franchot Tone, which culminated in a brutal altercation that left Tone hospitalized with severe injuries. The incident tarnished Payton's reputation, casting her as a symbol of Hollywood's darker side. The public fascination with her personal life began to overshadow her professional accomplishments, leading to fewer opportunities in the industry. Struggling to cope with the pressures of fame and the consequences of her choices, Payton turned to alcohol. Her drinking intensified as her career waned, and she began engaging in increasingly erratic behavior. She faced multiple arrests for public drunkenness, disorderly conduct, and shoplifting, further cementing her fall from grace. By the late 1950s, Payton was virtually unemployable in Hollywood. She descended into a life of poverty, relying on menial work, and eventually turning to prostitution to survive. Her physical and mental health deteriorated rapidly due to years of heavy drinking and instability. Once a picture of Hollywood glamour, Payton became almost unrecognizable in her final years. In 1967, at just 39 years old, she succumbed to heart and liver failure, conditions exacerbated by her alcoholism. Her death marked the tragic conclusion of a life filled with promise and potential that was ultimately undone by addiction and personal turmoil. Barbara Payton's story is a haunting reminder of how quickly fame can vanish and how addiction can derail even the brightest careers. Her life serves as both a cautionary tale and a sobering reflection on the pressures faced by those in the spotlight. Despite her tragic end, Payton remains a symbol of the fragility of stardom and the human cost of addiction. Dennis Price. Dennis Price was a distinguished figure in post-war British cinema, celebrated for his wit, charm, and impeccable acting skills. Best known for his iconic role as Louis Mazzini in the classic dark comedy Kind Hearts and Coronets, 1949, Price shared the screen with legends like Alec Guinness, showcasing his exceptional range and charisma. Born into an aristocratic family, Price seemed destined for a life of success. However, beneath the surface of his polished exterior, he battled personal demons that would ultimately lead to his tragic downfall. Price's struggles were rooted in a series of personal crises, starting with the collapse of his marriage. At a time when societal stigma around homosexuality was severe, Price felt compelled to keep his sexual orientation hidden, which added immense psychological strain. In 1954, this emotional burden drove him to a suicide attempt, one that was narrowly averted when a cleaning woman discovered him in time. Although Price survived, the incident marked a turning point in his life, and he turned increasingly to alcohol as a means of coping with his pain. Alcoholism soon became a central part of Price's life, affecting his work and relationships. Known for starting his days with a crate of Guinness and ending them with scotch, he often carried bottles with him to film sets, reportedly stashing them in shopping bags. His drinking began to impact his professionalism. Colleagues recounted instances where he appeared drunk on stage or wandered into scenes prematurely, undermining his once flawless reputation. As his addiction deepened, Price's health deteriorated. The effects of heavy drinking took their toll, both physically and emotionally. By the time he reached the later stages of his career, his once suave and commanding presence had faded, replaced by a man visibly worn down by years of struggle. Price succumbed to cirrhosis of the liver in 1973, dying in relative obscurity, far removed from the glamour of his early success. Dennis Price's story is a poignant reminder of how deeply personal struggles and societal pressures can shape and sometimes derail even the most promising lives. His battle with addiction, compounded by the challenges of living in a time of rigid social norms, highlights the enduring need for compassion and understanding in the face of such challenges. Despite his tragic end, Price's legacy as a brilliant actor endures, serving as both a testament to his talent and a cautionary tale of the destructive power of addiction. Robert Walker. Robert Walker was a rising star in 1940s Hollywood, celebrated for his magnetic performances and boyish charm. His standout role as Bruno Antony in Alfred Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train remains a testament to his talent, blending sinister charisma with psychological depth. Despite his success on screen, Walker's life off-screen was turbulent, marked by personal heartbreak and a growing dependence on alcohol that ultimately cut his promising career tragically short. Walker's troubles began with the collapse of his marriage to actress Jennifer Jones, a relationship that had been a cornerstone of his personal stability. Their separation, followed by Jones's high-profile relationship with film producer David O. Selznick, devastated Walker emotionally. The divorce not only strained his mental health, but also left him vulnerable to the pressures of Hollywood's relentless pace. Struggling to cope with the loss and the demands of his burgeoning career, Walker turned to alcohol as a means of escape. As his reliance on alcohol grew, so did its impact on his life. Walker's heavy drinking exacerbated underlying mental health issues, leading to erratic and sometimes self-destructive behavior. While his talent remained undeniable, his struggles often bled into his professional life. Colleagues recounted instances of mood swings and inconsistency on set, though his performances still managed to capture audiences. His role in Strangers on a Train was especially poignant, showcasing the complexity of a man seemingly at war with himself. Tragically, Walker's life came to an abrupt end in 1951 at just 32 years old. His death was officially attributed to an adverse reaction to a sedative administered by a psychiatrist, meant to calm him during an episode of emotional distress. However, many speculate that his declining physical and mental health, worsened by years of alcohol abuse, played a significant role in his untimely passing. The circumstances of his death remain a source of speculation and sorrow. Robert Walker's story is a reminder of how personal heartbreak and addiction can derail even the brightest futures. His life serves as both a cautionary tale and a reflection on the challenges faced by actors navigating the intense pressures of fame. Though his career was tragically short, Walker's legacy endures through his unforgettable performances, particularly in Strangers on a Train, where his haunting portrayal of Bruno Antony remains a cinematic masterpiece. Veronica Lake. Veronica Lake was one of the most captivating stars of 1940s Hollywood, an actress whose iconic peekaboo hairstyle and sultry performances in films like This Gun for Hire, The Blue Dahlia, and Sullivan's Travels made her a cultural phenomenon. Her unique blend of beauty, mystery, and talent set her apart, and she quickly became one of the most sought-after actresses of her time. Yet, behind the allure and success, Lake's personal life was fraught with turmoil, and her growing dependence on alcohol ultimately led to her downfall. Lake's rise to fame was swift, but the pressures of stardom took a toll on her personal and professional life. Known for her sharp wit and independent streak, she was often labeled as difficult by Hollywood insiders, a reputation that began to alienate her from directors and co-stars. By the late 1940s, a series of poor career choices and strained relationships with colleagues caused her once bright star to dim. As roles became harder to secure, Lake turned to alcohol to cope with the mounting pressure and the reality of her fading career. Her financial situation also deteriorated rapidly. By the early 1950s, Lake had declared bankruptcy and was forced to take on low-budget film roles far removed from her earlier successes. To make ends meet, she even worked as a waitress in New York City, a shocking fall from grace for a woman who had once been a Hollywood icon. Her struggles with alcoholism only deepened during this period, further isolating her from friends and industry connections. By the 1960s, Lake was a shadow of her former self. Her once glamorous image had faded, and her health was in decline due to years of heavy drinking. She suffered from hepatitis and kidney failure, conditions exacerbated by her alcoholism. Despite a brief resurgence of public interest when her memoir, Veronica, was published in 1969, her financial and health problems persisted. In 1973, at just 50 years old, Lake passed away from complications related to her years of alcohol abuse. Veronica Lake's life is a sobering reminder of how addiction can unravel even the most dazzling careers. Once a symbol of Hollywood glamour, she became a tragic figure, her brilliance overshadowed by personal struggles. Yet, her performances continue to captivate audiences, ensuring that her legacy endures as both a cautionary tale and a celebration of her undeniable talent. Andre the Giant. Andrei Rene Roussimoff, better known as Andre the Giant, was a one-of-a-kind figure in the world of professional wrestling and entertainment. Dubbed the eighth wonder of the world, Andre was renowned for his towering stature of 7 feet 4 inches and his remarkable charisma. Whether dominating the wrestling ring or charming audiences as Fezzik in The Princess Bride, Andre left an indelible mark on popular culture. However, his immense size and legendary drinking habits masked the physical and emotional challenges he endured, ultimately contributing to his untimely death. Andre's drinking exploits became the stuff of legend. Known for his seemingly endless capacity for alcohol, he reportedly consumed 7,000 calories of alcohol daily. Stories abound of Andre polishing off 100 beers in one sitting, or in one extraordinary instance, drinking 119 beers in a single night. On that occasion, after passing out in a hotel hallway, his companions resorted to covering him with a tarp because they couldn't move him. Bartenders and fellow wrestlers around the globe recounted tales of his epic binges, cementing his status as a larger-than-life personality both on and off the stage. Despite the jovial nature of these stories, Andre's drinking had serious consequences. His excessive alcohol consumption exacerbated the health problems caused by acromegaly, a hormonal disorder that resulted in his extraordinary size. The condition placed enormous strain on his heart and other organs, and his reliance on alcohol further weakened his already fragile health. Andre's size also meant that he often struggled to find comfort in a world designed for people of average proportions, and alcohol may have served as a way to cope with these challenges. By the time of his death in 1993, at the age of 46, Andre's health had deteriorated significantly. He passed away in his sleep from heart failure, a condition worsened by years of alcohol abuse and the complications of his acromegaly. His death was a devastating loss to fans, friends, and family, who remembered him not just as a giant in stature, but as a gentle soul with a warm heart. Andre the Giant's story is a poignant mix of triumph and tragedy. It celebrates the unique life of a man who captivated millions, while also serving as a cautionary tale about the physical toll of unchecked indulgence. His legacy remains a testament to his unmatched charisma and the joy he brought to so many, even as it highlights the human vulnerabilities that lay beneath his larger-than-life persona. John Barrymore. John Barrymore, often regarded as one of the greatest actors of his generation, left an indelible mark on the world of stage and film. A member of the legendary Barrymore acting dynasty, he dazzled audiences with his commanding presence, striking good looks and unparalleled talent. Known as the Great Profile for his chiseled features, Barrymore was celebrated for his Shakespearean performances and roles in classics like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Grand Hotel. Yet, Despite his artistic brilliance, his life was marred by a long and destructive battle with alcoholism. Barrymore's drinking began early in his career as he navigated the pressures of fame and the high expectations placed upon him as a member of the illustrious Barrymore family. Over time, what may have started as social drinking turned into a crippling addiction. His reliance on alcohol began to affect his personal life, straining relationships with family and friends, and alienating him from colleagues who once admired his professionalism. By the mid-1930s, the effects of Barrymore's alcoholism were undeniable. His memory suffered greatly, to the point where he had to rely on cue cards to deliver even the simplest lines. On some occasions, he arrived on set too intoxicated to perform, forcing directors to make accommodations or abandon projects entirely. His erratic behavior and physical decline tarnished his once stellar reputation, and offers for major roles dwindled. Barrymore's health continued to deteriorate as his addiction progressed. He developed cirrhosis of the liver, kidney disease, and chronic edema, all consequences of years of heavy drinking. The man who once commanded the stage with his booming voice and magnetic presence was reduced to a frail and trembling figure. Despite his failing health, Barrymore's passion for acting never waned, and he continued to take on roles sporadically until his death in 1942 at the age of 60. John Barrymore's story is a haunting example of how addiction can devastate even the most extraordinary talents. While his legacy as a trailblazing actor endures, it is tinged with the tragedy of unfulfilled potential and the cost of his personal struggles. His life serves as both a testament to his artistic genius and a cautionary tale about the destructive power of addiction, offering lessons that resonate far beyond the world of Hollywood. Peter O'Toole. Peter O'Toole was a magnetic force in the world of cinema, widely celebrated as one of the most talented actors of the 20th century. His iconic performance in Lawrence of Arabia, 1962, remains a landmark in film history, showcasing his extraordinary charisma, piercing blue eyes, and ability to command the screen. Over his career, O'Toole received 8 Academy Award nominations, a record for an actor who never won, but was ultimately honored with an honorary Oscar in 2003. Yet, behind his professional acclaim lay a tumultuous personal life, defined by his notorious drinking habits, which took a heavy toll on his health and career. O'Toole's reputation as a heavy drinker was as legendary as his acting. During the filming of Lawrence of Arabia, he became known for his wild escapades in Beirut, where his nightly binges became the stuff of Hollywood lore. He once quipped about starting a night out in Paris and waking up in Corsica, unable to recall how he got there. His drinking was often interwoven with his work, with stories of him arriving on set intoxicated, or even forgetting he was starring in a play that he had attended as an audience member. While his drinking added to his larger-than-life persona, it also wreaked havoc on his body. By the late 1970s, O'Toole's health began to deteriorate. He suffered from severe abdominal pain and was diagnosed with pancreatitis and other complications linked to his heavy alcohol consumption. Doctors warned him that his liver was failing and that continuing to drink could be fatal. Despite these warnings, O'Toole struggled to quit, only managing to stop drinking entirely in the 1980s after a health scare. Though he returned to acting and achieved critical acclaim in later years, the damage to his body was irreversible. O'Toole lived out the remainder of his life with the scars of his past excesses. Despite his weakened state, he continued to deliver compelling performances, including in The Last Emperor, 1987, and Venus, 2006. He passed away in 2013 at the age of 81, his health irrevocably damaged by decades of drinking. Peter O'Toole's life was a paradox of brilliance and chaos. He remains a testament to the heights of artistic achievement and the depths of personal struggle. His story highlights the complexity of addiction and how even the most extraordinary talent cannot entirely escape its consequences. Though his life was marked by turbulence, O'Toole's legacy as an actor endures, forever etched in the annals of cinematic history. Richard Burton. Richard Burton, renowned for his baritone voice and intense performances, was one of the most distinguished actors of his time. Known for iconic roles in films like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and Cleopatra, as well as his tumultuous relationship with Elizabeth Taylor, Burton was a master of his craft. However, his lifelong battle with alcoholism cast a dark shadow over his career and personal life. Burton's drinking began at a young age, and by his 20s, it was a central part of his lifestyle. At his peak, he was reportedly consuming up to 3 bottles of vodka a day. His drinking led to erratic behavior on film sets, including instances where he had to lie down during scenes to manage his intoxication. His legendary capacity for alcohol even awed fellow heavy drinkers, cementing his reputation as one of Hollywood's most infamous drinkers. Despite warnings from doctors, Burton refused to quit. Years of excessive drinking caused severe damage to his health, including kidney problems and an enlarged liver. By the 1980s, his once vibrant appearance had withered, and his body was riddled with the effects of chronic alcohol abuse. He died in 1984 at the age of 58, a victim of a brain hemorrhage linked to his deteriorating health. Richard Burton's story is a stark reminder of how addiction can erode even the most brilliant careers, leaving behind a legacy tinged with both admiration and tragedy.
Once you have a drink problem, you always have one. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic.
Oliver Reed. Oliver Reed was one of Britain's most colorful and talented actors, known for his commanding performances in films like Oliver and The Three Musketeers. However, his off-screen antics and unrelenting love for alcohol often overshadowed his immense talent, making him one of Hollywood's most infamous drinkers.
Maybe we'll see you a resident here in Guernsey.
Yes,
Done it again.
very kind.
Reed's drinking habits were legendary. He once boasted about consuming 126 pints in 24 hours and often combined beer with spirits like gin or whiskey. Reed's wild behavior earned him a reputation as a lovable rogue, but it also cost him professionally, as his on-set behavior was often unpredictable. Despite his excesses, Reed continued to act, delivering standout performances, even as his health began to fail. His final moments epitomized his larger-than-life persona. While filming Gladiator in Malta, Reed spent an evening drinking heavily with sailors, reportedly consuming 8 bottles of beer, 3 bottles of rum, and numerous shots of whiskey. He collapsed and died of a heart attack that same night at the age of 61. Oliver Reed's story reflects the duality of his life, a man of remarkable talent whose penchant for indulgence led to a premature and dramatic end. His legacy remains a mix of brilliance and chaos, serving as a cautionary tale about the dangers of excess. The stories of these 10 acting legends reveal the devastating toll that alcoholism can take, even on those blessed with extraordinary talent and success. Behind the glamour of Hollywood and the adoration of fans, these stars faced battles that often went unnoticed until it was too late. Their struggles with addiction not only impacted their careers, but also their personal lives, relationships, and ultimately, their health. From the charming sophistication of Spencer Tracy to the chaotic energy of Oliver Reed, these actors shared a common vulnerability. Their reliance on alcohol as a coping mechanism for the pressures of fame and personal pain serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of addiction. Despite their brilliance, they were unable to escape the grip of alcoholism, which tarnished their legacies and, in many cases, cut their lives tragically short. These cautionary tales are more than just glimpses into the darker side of Hollywood. They offer important lessons about the complexities of addiction and the need for compassion and support. While their talent will always be remembered, their struggles remind us that even the brightest stars can falter when faced with overwhelming challenges. As we reflect on their lives, let their stories serve as reminders of the importance of addressing addiction, fostering understanding, and providing help to those in need. Their legacies may be marked by tragedy, but they also highlight the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring impact of their artistry. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to get more videos like this one. Thank you for watching.